Oh, usually. Yeah, our girls in the parking lot, like, oh, it must be here. Because the upper side for it.
Thank you. Yeah. So first, item on the agenda is our election. So we have, had our vice chairman leave and the position is open. So, before you are towards the, does it ring for the ballot? Did everybody click on the line? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we will go through the process and vote for vice chairman. Before we do so, does anybody want to indicate any interest of wanting to be vice chair? Sure. Jake?
Yes, I'd like to be considered, been on the board for 2 years, been very involved with our school systems and, the town raised my kids here for, and have lived here for over 25 years. I bring a lot of corporate experience and organizational skills and, a lot of passion for our kids.
I'll know my name is. Sure you all know me by now and what I stand for and. So, you either like that or you don't.
And with that, did ballots. And. Give it to me.
Funny, not funny.
Yes. Come on, one more. Oh. Yeah, you think so? What? Leadership conference. Yeah.
We had that discussion, so because we have some switch and turnover limited to at least like levels that again, that we talked about, we have smaller to kind of carry that through and then maybe get some the selection.
Already on.
Just because like. And everything else, you know, so how much is in between, so we figure it's.
All right, so by majority, we have, Jane now as our new commissioner. No, I don't think so. Yes.
I don't think we need to do that. We can do that.
Okay, all right. So next, we have our audience of citizens. So just as this is our first meeting, rules for audience of citizens. So I know there's a couple of you in the audience, if you'd like to address the board, welcome first of all to the meeting. So on the back of your agenda, the meeting conduct there, the board allows us public to come and address the board with a, for anything that's on the agenda or any such purpose. You may not get a response from the board as part of that action after the address. The superintendent may respond or clarify a specific question or issue at his discretion, and a result of the comments. All speakers are asked to identify themselves by name and address, as residents of the town. 3 minutes are allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 30 minutes in total on any topic. So for example, if each of you or anybody that's online wanted to address the same thing, then it would be 30 minutes in total. Board member is going to be appointed by the chairperson prior to the meeting to act for 10 2/3 of meeting. So Karen, I will ask you as secretary to please keep time. There's no boisterous conduct permitted at the board meeting. If that is such, then I have the ability as chair to then ask that for the summary determination. And then speakers are required to refrain from presentations that discuss specific employees of the Board of Education, regardless of whether or not the employee is identified in the presentation by name or another reference that tends to identify an individual. So if there's anything that is relating to a specific item there, then they're asked to address specific challenges to the student. Any questions on? Right, so if there's anybody in the audience that would like to address the board at this, do so.
Okay, so my name is Chris Ratneri. I live at 10 Ovid Heights in town. My daughter graduated last year from high school, but I'm here because this is the first time I've been able to speak without any danger to my daughter. For the last 2 years, I had to be pretty much silent other than dealing with either the writing to the board or writing to the administration about the drama club, which has had very many problems associated with it, including having to have, some counseling, and there's been threats to people's well-being, including my daughter's, from people on both social media and, potentially physically. So we didn't feel we were able to come forward and say this while she was still at school. We did try to address it behind the scenes. I feel like we've gotten nowhere. You have a problem with cheating. Okay, there are teachers, which I will not name, that have absolutely, in their own words, said that they precast the productions and said that that having favorites is okay. And I would like to play for you their own words.
Yeah, I don't know. You can take.
Staff member get it as a thing.
Yeah, if this is. Mr. O'Leary, I apologize for this. There is a staff member that's on there. We cannot stop right now.
Well, it's in their own words, so I have it. Okay, the problem is nobody's addressed it. In fact, I've got it in writing that I don't want to hear this. Well, that's not really investigating the problem. The problem needs to be brought to the forefront. If you have a contest of any kind, you don't cheat. You don't cheat the students. The students are due an equal protection and equal chance to get anything. Now, I'm not saying you have to win, but it should be fair. Why did this come about? Well, for a couple of years, my daughter suspected there was favoritism. Couldn't prove it. And then basically by accident, wound up finding out that this teacher was potentially doing so. So she had a meeting and, and in that meeting, everything, I thought it was fine. We always had this debrief and things. Everything was fine, just for informational purposes. And then, a few weeks later, after all this happened, I had a meeting with, the superintendent at the time, Jan Ferruccio, and members of the staff. And the teachers basically admitted it. I mean, I have the tape. You don't have to want to hear it, but the tape is them saying, hey, precasting happens, favorites happen. That's just what happens in every high school. I don't accept that. That is not fair to any of these students. They did a survey. Then they hit the results of the survey. I asked for the survey since April of last year, but never got it. Or everything that happened was a systematic suppression of information. I asked for a FOIA request. Okay, thankfully, Chris has informed me actually just today that I will have some of that, but it's taken 7 months. The legal timeframe for that, this started in February. The legal timeframe for that is 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, now, it's a lot of information. Now, 2 to 4 weeks to inform me when, not necessarily get it, fine. But you know what? It's just not fair. Because what they did with this is then when I had the private communications with the teachers trying to fix this, those teachers decided that they could go and talk in front of students. So they had an open laptop, emails, and they had conversations in 2 or 3 separate occasions in front of students. Okay, and those students then started rumors, in which case basically destroyed my daughter's social life. It's really not fair that none of you, and I wrote to the board, I got nothing but a circular firing squad here. Whereas like, oh, you can do this, you talk to the superintendent. Well, if I have a problem with the superintendent, who do I go to? Can't go to the superintendent. Go to the board, but the board then refers you back to the superintendent. So where do you go? Do you people have, I hope have integrity, and I hope that you would think that cheating is not a good thing. I mean, that's not what it's supposed to be in school. You're not supposed to cheat or have favorites. You're supposed to do an even feeling type of thing.
Mr. Ratneri, that's the 3 minutes.
Okay. So anyway, I would like to have an apology to my daughter and to all the other students that this has happened to, because we know it has happened. And if you don't believe me, I also have other tapes that show of the superintendent actually admitting that the only reason she couldn't fix it is because the teachers might quit.
It's your time, Mr. Aaron.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience, the citizens that would like to support?
I don't have a word to say, but I just would like to introduce myself. My name is Mariki Karahan, and I'm a Democratic candidate for Board of Ed this fall. So I thought I would just come in and see how we all work together.
Thanks. Okay. Is there anyone online? No, it's fine. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the reports from the Student Board of Ed, which welcome, it's totally email, very excited for you to be here, so maybe you want to take just a couple minutes and introduce yourselves. And then the report from.
Yes, well, I'm Nico Sokolowski. I live down in Knollwood, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Last year, Sylvia and I were elected for this, and it's something that we've been looking forward to a lot, so just know it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I'm Sylvia Weber. Like Nico said, we were elected last year and I'm just like so happy to be here. I mean, a little bit about myself. I'm in this organization called Miss President, which your daughter also does. I'm really involved with my school and I just am so happy to be here. So thank you.
We're very excited for you guys to be here. So after post-election last year, superintendent and I and the administration at the high school met with Sylvia and Nico to kind of go through some ground rules. Just a reminder, you guys are welcome to chime in on anything. We're looking for your opinions. Don't just have to be in the report section. You can stay for as long as you want. There is the 8 o'clock time limit. If you need to excuse yourself, you can just go. That's you're always welcome to do that. You really have other too. So, but yeah, we're looking for your opinions. So looking forward to the conversation. So with that, sorry, you're listed, so you're on.
Alright, so this is the first of our reports, and we apologize if it's not up to par, we still need some time to fully grasp the hang of this. So we'll start off with the academics. Morning classes started the week of September 2nd. That was a week or two after the school year started. So with the school year, in swing and everything, kids are just catching up with classes and getting used to it. And I'd say, for the most part, so far, everything's been good, Teachers have been good, the amount of homework has been manageable. Just my opinion on that. And then also, with the school year starting, the fall athletic season is underway as well. That's boys and girls soccer, field hockey, cross country, football, and swim team, which is co-op with 4 other schools, I believe. And then also, start of the school year, we have clubs that are now starting up. And there's, I think, 2 or 3 more clubs this year than there were last year, which is good. And kids are always starting new clubs, every month, new clubs popping up, so.
So now for the student opinion section, so JV and Sam actually gave me this idea too, we kind of just like captured what they did last year, but you know, since there's the new schedule, and the new flex time, so do you guys all know about the flex? No, all right, so basically a little bit of a summary is the flex is like a way that you can talk with teachers and get extra help and et cetera, et cetera. But this year, the flex has changed to like, there's 2 periods and then there's a flex. So now instead of it being right before lunch, it's now like more used as an academic study hall instead of like a socializing, thing. So, the flex time, people say it's a little too early, but overall it's been like, I think personally, I think it's a very, very good way to just like, section out the classes and, but the one concern that everyone has is that the teachers and the students, like, they don't know when to go to teachers for help because there's like assigned, like, each grade has SAT day, like where they can prep for that, or there's this climate survey day where they, I don't know, learn about the climate of the school, but basically now we're starting to see and learn that you don't have to go to these flexes, it's kind of mandatory, so this section is a little bit, you know, old, but problems in this flex, there's no problems, but it's just like a lot to get used to. And the new schedule, it's actually very helpful for the new freshmen because we're dropping 1 and 5 on Tuesdays instead of like 4 and 8, and it's a way like better way to have the schedule. And so for updates, the senior sunset, that happened at 6:30 in the morning, the first day of school at Saybrook Point. It used to be at like a town beach maybe, I'm not really sure, but yeah, that was a success. And then there's a social studies field trip, and this is a trip going to New York City. They're gonna see the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, and the 9/11 memorial on Wednesday, October 1st, and it costs $100. And finally, we would like to ask just a quick question. Like, what was the idea behind the slushy machine and the ice cream cooler? It's such a like surprise the first day of school.
Are you complaining?
No.
When I saw that, I'm like, all right, well, I can take it out. The slushies are healthy,
Okay.
they're all approved. But our nutrition services staff was able to expand the offerings for kids at times.
I love that.
Surprise. Yeah, let's take a complaint about it, we'll take it out.
No, I love how there's more options and things that we can have in our school. And then next, we would just like to, I mean, we just kind of added a new addition to this report. It's just an inside peek of the high school, because I mean, I'm sure you guys have never, I don't know, don't really go to the high school that often. So just like the picture of the slushy machine and like, you know, that's the cafe area, and then there's the ice cream cooler, and then now there's a new way to plug in your like code, so it's all great.
Yeah, everything's in.
Multimedia.
Yeah, great.
So the change in flex always existed. It used to be right before lunch. So we found a lot of kids were sort of leaving flex a little earlier to extend lunch a bit. So we put politely, maybe a little bit more social. So they moved, and this was a whole year long conversation. It wasn't just made in the vacuum. We had to talk about this at Super a couple of times last year. About moving flex. So the way the schedule is now, you have 2 classes, flex, another class, and then lunch. So that kids, it's basically moved up 15 minutes earlier in the day, so that kids didn't get an opportunity to maybe extend lunch a little bit more than they were there.
How long's this last for flex?
50.
15?
50.
Oh, 50,
It's
yeah,
a period,
okay, that's.
yes. It's a period, it's a class,
It's a whole-
period that's built today. It used to be the
Okay.
period before, am I wrong? They're not 50.
30 minutes.
30-minute class.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of, it got moved up 15 minutes, it's a 30 minutes.
Okay, so it's less than a class.
Yes, and we used to have it
like last year, we would have flex, like we had super and during flex,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you have announcements going on, so like half the time we're having meetings. The announcements are going on, we have to pause or the kids can't hear, so it was really sort of move that up earlier in the day so the kids can utilize that for the help of it.
Okay, just a reminder, because we're getting back into practice, just like raise your hand so that you can ask questions, so we can make sure we get to everybody. Karina?
Just a quick question about the slushie machine, because I was surprised that sodas aren't allowed to be served. This sure looks like the red and blue drinks from the movie theater, so I'm curious
It's
about the
approved.
health.
I don't know exactly what's in it, but it was Erin came up with it. And she knows the rules and it's, I don't wanna say it's like for stuff, but, cause they won't buy it, but I was told it was falls within our healthy certification, and maybe like a. Or I don't know. the stuff.
It tastes healthy, so.
Smoothie, that one, I think smoothie's a better way to.
It doesn't look like a smoothie
But-
at all.
But whatever's in it.
That's a puppy dog.
It's not for every seven.
Jackie, thank you.
Yeah, first, Sylvie, Nico, welcome. Really excited to get your input. Encourage you to talk with as many of your peers throughout the grade levels as you can, maybe come up with your own process for reaching out. And sharing those student opinions, and I love the idea of the photos, that
Yeah.
inside peek you called it. First, have you had a chance, you already mentioned JV and Sam, have you had a chance to collaborate with them at all?
So, I mean, do you wanna?
Yeah, so obviously coming into this, we weren't exactly sure, you know, we wanted it to be as good as possible. So we did collaborate with them a little. We would ask them sort of what it was like last year, what you guys were looking for. And with that, we were able to piece together our first report sheet.
Okay, did Sam share with you her idea that you shared with us last year of having a 2-year term?
No, she did not.
Just something to bring back for discussion, and as a board, we may want to put on an agenda if students are in favor of it. And that is the idea of maybe a 2-year term. We discussed the possibility of maybe like Sam and JV in this instance being kind of advisors, the two of you.
Yeah.
For the 4 of you collaborating, and maybe anytime that one can't make it, then they're kind of backup to come to a meeting as a second. Something to take home to talk about. The flex time, one concern is meeting with clubs. Has that been, because I understand it's different for different grade levels. So has that been a challenge with club meetings? Because there are a lot of active clubs.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, now we're kind of realizing that these flexes are not mandatory to go to, but we're just like finding out, we weren't really like told that, but I mean, just clubs in general during flex is so hard to schedule because it's like, there's so many clubs, so it's like every club meets on Tuesday, and then it's like, there's none on Friday, and it's just like all together, like, it's really hard to plan clubs in 30 minutes, but you can also have clubs after school, but then sports like conflict with that, and also some kids can't like go after school because they don't have a bus and stuff like that. So, I mean.
So is this new schedule kind of made it more difficult for individuals to join clubs and clubs that meetings?
I wouldn't say it made it
Yeah.
more difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of times what happens is the clubs only take up the first 10 or 15 minutes of flex, and then you can be excused to go see, like, if you need help from another teacher.
Good.
So,
And that was the other thing I heard, there are structured flex periods, and one of them might be SAT and PSAT prep. Is that required?
Now I'm learning it's not. It's not. I don't think it is.
Not technically required, but encouraged.
But it's like if like students don't have anything to do, then it's like they have that option to do SATs, which is really great because like last year, it was just like socializing. Like if someone didn't have any homework, like they would just walk around the hall. So now you have to be in a classroom and doing something. So
You now subscribe to a program called IXL. And IXL is different at every grade level, obviously, so we have it for middle school, we have it for high school. That could be for SAT or SAT prep. So that was a tool we didn't have last year during Flex that we now have, so if kids need some extra assistance in that. We have the ability to sign them up through IXL so they can get that during the Flex.
But it is a choice, where we're not requiring that every student go through Khan Academy or whatever it is, PSAT and SAT.
But we didn't have that as an option last year, we even offered that.
Okay.
Right, I'd also like to add, we have this new Power School app, so now it's not like through two different apps, now it's only in one app, and it's like Power School is where all of our grades are held, and then you can sign up for all these schedules, like for different teachers, now it's like, I think it's way more organized, now teachers know where everyone is, and they check their grades.
You didn't like the E-Hall pass thing last year?
That was definitely challenging.
Moving on.
Steve first and.
I think my question's been answered, but I just don't understand, the entire school is on flex time at the same time. All the grades,
Yes.
and they have the option to go schedule stuff with teachers or be in clubs or.
That's my question too, is that every student can has the same flex time?
Yeah, the flex time is designated for the building, how each individual student uses it could be different, depending on what's going on, so if there's a club meeting. And you're not in that club, but you wanna go get IXL help for SAT prep, you can do that, it's all, you can schedule that individualized to.
Right, interesting, how do you contact teachers if you need help, how does that work?
Well, in what sense are you regarding, like if I need extra help, I can just sign up for the.
That's what I mean. You just sign
Okay,
up.
so you can just sign up right through Power School, it takes 30 seconds, and then you report there for flex, and you get the help that you need.
So really, this new flex is actually very, very helpful. So this, our little report is a little, misleading, but it's actually, it's been really.
Outdated.
Yeah,
Outdated.
yeah, we're learning as we go and, yeah.
And welcome, I just had one other question, tell me about 0 hour, what time is that, and what means at 0 hour?
So 0 hour is at 7:15 every morning, and so basically, I mean, I'm in, I go every single day, 5 times, 5 days a week. And basically you can sign up for different, like they're basically classes, like I have a chamber class and that's a musical group where we, you know, travel and your daughter and several of your kids, I've done this, but it's just, you know, music groups, there's jazz band and flute, choir, clarinet, it's all these, cause I can't do band during the day, cause schedules and conflicts, so it's really good opportunities to have. School.
Thanks. Any other question? Okay, well done on the first report, really, really great, fantastic. All right, Karen, do you have any correspondence?
Not today.
Okay. All right, next item will be, we'll need a motion, surrounding our special meeting minutes of August 4th. So moved by Karen. Seconded by Steve, any discussion? Okay, then all in favor? Aye, any opposed? Any abstentions? Abstain.
I I was not there.
Okay, so Jack and Joe and Jane. The motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, and then we have our open week review.
Fortunately, you're stuck with me today, all right, can we give it a go?
Here we
Can I borrow that from you?
What, this?
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's hopefully you'll be revealed. Okay, so what I shared, because we don't have any other than because the first meeting back, we don't have any board guests for the evening besides us. So one of the things, I appreciate those who were able to attend convocation. For those of you who couldn't, I totally understand. I wouldn't want to listen to me talk either. But I thought it was important just at least share with the board and anyone who happens to be watching on Zoom, either now or on YouTube later, what we talked about. And some of the things you will find familiar, because it's things that we talked about in this room throughout the last 12 months or so. Gotta see if we can pull it out. I'm sure. Promise I gave you the abridged version. Now I can't get out. Mary Beth knows enough that it was, if I was doing this, you would be seeing that. Stick figures in the box. I'll explain. What you got, look at that, less than a minute. Okay, so this is what I started with, and I think it's important just to sort of refresh everyone in the room. Before I came here, I obviously did my research on the community in the district, and one of the things that I'm used to is when you go into the district, you wanna know what they're about. And what they want you to know, the first place you go is either to their website or to their email signature. And typically, from my experience, people will tell you what they want you to know about them. So when I came here, we were the home of the Braves. That was everywhere we looked. Which made sense because as I had conversations throughout my transition time, people were telling me on the side, we don't really like the Ram we have. We wanted a new Ram, which I'm not gonna make you relive that whole story again. So just keep that in mind as we start talking about what we're gonna work on going forward for this year. Okay. So actually, if we go back.
Yeah.
One of the things that you're very well aware of, and I sent the link to you, this is just a screenshot of it, but something we spent time over the last year working on was the district organization and managerial plan. So there's 4 pillars to that plan, which we've discussed. Health and safety, personnel, curriculum and instruction, and communications. Communication page is live. We've spent everything we can gather up here. It is a breathing document. It's constantly moving and evolving. As things come up, we can alter it. But I wanted to make sure that the commitment to the community is that we would get the first phase of the work out. And that one is actually us. This is not interactive. This is just a screenshot, but that link that we have sent you is out there for you guys to view at your own pleasure. Moving on. The question that I asked staff, and I think I may have shared this with you, I kind of reverse engineered it. I tried to do this last summer when I first got here, and admittedly, it kind of blew over my face. So last April, I called all the staff together in the high school. And I asked that question, I kind of started with, like, I thought we were just the home of the Rams, but being here for 7-8 months, I realized we're much more than that. And there's more that is important to us as a community, as a family, than just what our mascot is. So I gave a homework assignment and I said, we're gonna send you a link. If you can describe what you want the world to know us as, in 1 sentence or less, something that will fit at the bottom of an email or will sit, on the top of a letterhead. I'm not gonna dictate what it is. Doesn't work if it comes from me. It has to come from the masses. So I asked everyone, I got well over 100 responses. There were some duplicates, there were some themes, but we kind of ran the top selections through the old AI machine to figure out which one actually come to the top. And over the summer, we had basically 3 winners, that we had our leadership summit over the summer. And when I put them on the screen, by the time I got to past the first one, everybody in the room said that's it. So, like, when you look at Old Saybrook Public Schools, click. When you ask anyone who works here or is involved in the district as employees, what do you want the world to think of us? That's what our masses have told us, that together we build bright futures. There was several different iterations of it. The challenge was the word bright and light was very common. Click. Because our lighthouse that we currently had didn't have a light filter. So if we were going to use the word bright, we decided that we needed to have a new lighthouse because the current one that we had couldn't read and there was no light on it. I asked the staff, are you comfortable putting your name on this? Because that's where it's gonna go. And it was pretty, and I did say as a caveat, if you don't like it, don't tell me because we've already printed these up. And everybody had one in the back of the room. You all have a magnet as well. So if you see this is great because I stole from her. We have one for everyone. But that is what the people who work here think that best represents what we do as a district. This is also important because the next meeting, we're gonna start the conversation about the next strategic plan. And in my opinion, can't start a strategic plan if nobody knows what you believe in. And that was really the purpose of us doing this exercise together. I've gotten a lot of, I have not gotten anything negative about and this wasn't mine, this wasn't Chris's idea. So if you don't like it, just don't tell me today, because I don't want to ruin the positive vibes we got on it. So, moving on. That was the first piece. The second piece, this is something that you may have seen this in your work as a board when you were approving the teacher evaluation plan. So we talk a lot about PDEC, and I know we don't use acronyms, but one of the things that's built in our teacher evaluation plan is this page. This is actually page 2 of the document. And if you look where it says goal setting, it says during the summer months, the superintendent prioritized student outcomes that the district intends to achieve through its collective efforts. School and department leaders then identify a limited set of instructional practices that support the implementation of the district's vision of high quality instruction. If you look at the first tiny bullet point, that goes that the superintendent will narrow the focus of student outcomes. I probably shouldn't tell you this now, but this year's already over. I didn't do that last summer when it says I was supposed to. Because I didn't know at that time last summer when we first met, that I was supposed to narrow the focus based on the new plan. So full disclosure, I didn't do that part, but I'm not gonna make the same mistake twice. Challenge that I have in doing my piece of that is everything is tied to what our vision of high quality instruction is. Next. That is what our visual for high quality instruction is. I left that up there for staff to say, watch everyone freak out when I put the heuristic on there. So during my travels, that is also the document that is in our teacher evaluation model, that is what defines high quality instruction in the district. That is a heuristic. I have heard everyone's opinion on said heuristic. And it is pretty unanimous that no one either likes it and or understands it. And at one point, it became known as Curry's heuristic. So naturally, I went to Curry and said, why did you do this? And he shared with me, I don't care what it looks like, I just want our kids to learn, so it's nothing personal, if this isn't working, maybe it's time to go in another direction. Before I get to that, you click, this should be familiar to you. I informed everybody in the district that I made commitments on their behalf for them, and you are all aware of these, because these are the things at the end of last year, you told me you wanted me to do. Although we didn't lock in specific goals for this year, there are 3 areas of focus that I'm going to work on this year, but I can't do this work alone without our staff. The first is increasing academic rigor. We'll get into it in a moment. The second is addressing behavioral disciplinary matters with greater consistency. And the last is strengthening and aligning the school practices across the district. We have 3 buildings in town, and sometimes we do 3 different things for the same thing. We need to work on that better as a district. That's what you all asked me to do, and I agreed to it. I also spoke for everyone else who works here that this is where we're gonna focus. So that first part of me narrowing, I've started that process. Going back to everyone's favorite heuristic, I am not responsible for what you're about to see, but I showed it to everyone and they laughed, so I'm gonna let you guys see it too. Just have to click that. It's had nothing to do with me. Yeah. Now, mind you, this is the least popular document in town. Keep going, yeah, I'm sorry. We'll just get to the end. Let Jeff and Trump go wild. Keep going, just, you'll know when it stops. As we can,
Surprised they didn't sound.
no, I tempered everything.
There was a lot
A
of
little
sound.
MC
There was
Hammer.
a lot of sound at the,
Convocation.
there's a lot of.
I told you I'm giving you the quick version, those of you who
There's
saw
a
it.
lot of clapping.
Yeah.
Okay. I think one more. With Dustin, so. Think one more. I had it down with a click. Okay, one more. We blew up the heuristic. The document that I'm sure you've heard about from staff members, that I clearly heard about from staff members, and we're gonna ask our teachers and all of our certified staff members to base everything they do based on what our vision of high quality instruction looks like. If no one understands the vision of high quality instruction and or the document, then the definition of insanity applies. Let's not do that anymore. My directive to our staff was, we need to replace it, and there's an emphasis on us to design what we believe that vision will be, but we can't do that in a vacuum either. So during the school year last year, Corrine and Trent went on tour to ask our staff members what our vision of high quality instruction is. And my directive was, whatever we come up with is going to be easy to read, understandable, preferably color coded, because that's how I can operate a little bit better. But most importantly, and what they put on their own was what we should see in every lesson, every classroom, every day in OSPS. So I brought a cheat sheet because my eyes are bad, but I will try to read the bottom. If you look at that first step, again, this is a living framework by design. The living framework was, we may learn as we go that some of this is not applicable. But not a lot of people can argue. When we ask our teachers to start setting their goals for the year, we need to start on that first tier. What's a supportive learning environment? How do we start? And that's as simple as a physical classroom environment. Restorative practices that we're starting to implement. Classroom management routines, going back to that behavioral thing that we talked about throughout the last year. and building a sense of belonging, making sure our kids feel safe here. That's the foundation of what we start with. We then move into our goal setting and what the next steps are, like where am I going? That grade level and content skills, that increasing rigor that we talked about, setting learning goals and learning targets, assessment, feedback that we're getting from each other, but most importantly from our kids. That next tier, making thinking visible. How am I going? Those instructional strategies, whether it's writing or discussion, how are our kids learning? How are we going to see what learning looks like in our classrooms? And then asking and adjusting and answering questions. A lot of what we do now is based on the questions that our kids ask. How are we quantifying? And lastly is that application of learning, or the what's next. Again, still staying on that grade level and content, the comprehensive strategies, instructional resources, you guys all have it, I would read it all to you. We had an obligation to provide everyone in this district a clear vision on what we expect high quality instruction to be. I didn't make this up. This isn't Chris's group. This is the feedback that we had. 3 months of going to the buildings and holding listening tours and talking to those that we're going to ask to do the best they can with our kids. We presented this out at convocation of the new framework, the new heuristic, and the feedback that we've got. Our teachers are starting to get into that. Only at our first PLC, our first PLC meeting, they're starting to get into that. What are we going to work on? The first part is we have an obligation to give them a clear direction. This direction is much clearer than what we had given them in the past. Now, what do? Next. So there's a few things that we have to talk about, and what we need to discuss in this room is how are we going to do things? And I mentioned earlier, teased it a little bit, is we have to start talking about what we want that next 5-year plan to look like. First thing we have to, our answer is, what do we believe in? What do we want the world to know that we believe in here? It can be as simple as we believe in kids or what we came up with, but that's ultimately where we need to start. Before I could start asking people to write goals, and this is the part of the reason why I'm gonna fall on the sword about last year, why I didn't do my job last year over the summer, because I didn't have how we did the previous year. How can I set goals or ask people to set goals on next year's performance, and we didn't know how we did the following year? So this year's summer, we did a little bit different. We did our summer district leadership, instructional leadership team meetings where I rolled out some of this, but then I asked a simple question: how did we do? And we took last year's sort of high level academic performance data that we had at the time. And I shared that we are going to be increasing academic rigor. Let's look at this data and see how we did before we move forward. And that last thing about projects is, what are we going to do with that information? So moving on, very bad. You can skip through this. This is what we did over the summer, but I always take everyone back to this. This is something you should all be familiar with. But this is our accountability. So this is the state of Connecticut's report card for every public school district. We are, and this is last year. To remind you, in case you're unaware, sometimes the state works a little slow. So this information isn't out there yet for last academic year. So we only have, it's still embargoed at this point in time. So what you see was 23-24. But that number of all the data we collect from the state of Connecticut, this is the one metrics that I actually favor. Probably a better choice of word. Because this number is a culmination of 12 different indexes. And those indexes are not just academic. There are indexes, and we had this conversation last year, but there's some new people. This will not just look at academic achievement and growth. This will look at things such as chronic absenteeism, graduation rate, access to arts, college and career ready, physical fitness, not just participation, but also performance. There are 12 different metrics that everything gets lumped in and you get a number. I showed this number because I had asked the group, can anyone tell me the difference between 85 and 80.1? You guys can count. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. It was a trick question. What that means, if you look at the target line of 85, that is what the state of Connecticut hits as the target number to be considered a high functioning or high performing school district. Function is not the correct word, sorry. The high performing school district. And as you can see, we're pretty close. We've gotten there, and I don't know the history of 2018-19 where we kind of got there, and then obviously we know what happened after that, things kind of dipped, but that is not a lot for us to ask to aspire to. I can't promise it can happen overnight, But your worlds, and we found out today that the National Blue Ribbon Schools are done away with, but the Connecticut State Department of Education has now introduced Connecticut Blue Ribbon Schools in place of that. Those are how districts get recognized. As a father who just put 2 kids through high school and that one through college, and another went to college. Colleges look at your performance based on acceptance rates because your diploma from Old Saybrook High School may outweigh a diploma from somewhere else. So this stuff matters to all of us, not just our kids. I put that up for a visual to say that's where we need to go. And it's not just, we're just gonna improve reading scores, which is important. But that has the best measure of the whole child than anything that we're required to send or to comply with when it comes to state data. Okay. When we put the last year's academic data on the board, there had to be some norms in the room. I didn't want finger pointing, like, hey, your department stinks or your building stinks. We had to look at this through a clean lens of, let's assume positive intentions. Nobody comes to work and says, we don't want our kids to do well. We have to look at it through that lens. Speak from the data. The numbers are what they are. And don't interpret anything until we have an opportunity to see what we're looking at. So we went into this with those norms. And I asked the group of the district and instructional leadership team, and I didn't participate, I listened. Go ahead. What did you see? And these are just some bullet points that group saw, and it wasn't accusatory. It wasn't, hey, this person's not doing their job, or we're not doing well, but these are some of the bullet points that we saw. More importantly, is what I asked them to do next was, based on the data we saw, what questions do you all now have? Because remember, we're gonna start planning on what we're gonna do with this. To move on to the next slide. These were the questions that came up. And you can see, this is our curriculum support student practice on standard assess. Do we have consistent practice across grade levels? Sound familiar? Can we combine efforts over the years to help students' overall growth, academic, social, sound familiar? How do students' social growth contribute to academic growth? Here's a news flash. You guys have had discussions about 8th grade scores in the past. What else has happened with 8th grade kids? Hormones. Sometimes they don't always perform that well. Well, we know that. What are we doing to assist those kids? But the biggest question that came out, I didn't write it, was the last one. How do we change the system to give our students a better chance? This is the culmination of listening and learning over a year to get the people who have to implement these changes to understand it's time for us to start doing that. So at the end, the conclusion of the episode, there's 2 opinions that are not on there, mine and Dr. Fletcher. Because if it came top down, doesn't mean it. And I've been in the room long enough to know that if I kind of give a hint, then you may not feel that, Jane, and say, well, that's not that important to me, but the boss likes it, so I'm gonna say that. I shut my mouth. I wanted to hear. And I heard the things that I needed to hear during the things. The last thing that I heard from everyone in that room was, this would be a great exercise to do with all of our staffs, with all of our buildings, all of our departments. So the conclusion of convocation was, now you're all gonna go do it. We did it, this is what we saw. Let's start this process. Before you start writing your goals out for the year, you don't know what you're writing on. You haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen how you did. We don't know what's important yet. We allowed everybody in the district to go through this very same exercise that we went through as a leadership team for the district. And I left the, oh, you can go to the next one. And I left them with, last year, my first convocation, I asked the simple question, why are you here? Why are you doing this? This year, I changed the question. Who are you here for? If you're here for yourself, or you're here because you get summers off, or you get a cool pension at the end of the rainbow, you're not here for it. Don't forget why you're here. You're here for them. You're here for these 2. And as long as we keep our North Star, then what we said we believe is true, that together we do build bright futures. So I didn't want to advertise any of the stuff that I shared with you globally, because technically I never told the board this, what we were doing in this capacity. So someone had asked, are we going to put that new lighthouse out? And we kind of put it smallly, but I didn't brand it out yet because I didn't get the opportunity to share with all of you as a board. So that is sort of the opening week, and there's details within the memos that we shared with you, but I thought it was important for the board as a whole to sort of hear the direction that we're going as a district for this school year. And I can proud to share that the feedback that I've gotten either in large forms or even small conversations in hallways from teachers who I didn't expect, that said, thank you, it's time. We're ready to start moving on some of this stuff. So the word I was given and I'm using is people like the vibe. So whatever you guys did is working because the vibe out there is pretty good. So that said, that sort of concludes the opening week's report, unless anyone has any questions on.
That, this is fabulous. And I like that, the accountability index, you have a specific measurable and reasonably achievable goal. How do we gain 4.9 points? How do we achieve that over those multiple inputs, right? And I appreciate your focus on academic growth, because I feel, and, comments from the community. Our schools have not been performing at the level that we used to, and I think that you are bringing us forward in a way that our academic excellence will improve. And it's exciting. And yeah, in previous strategic plan goal measures, they've been different across the 3 schools and not true measures at all, and there was no accountability with respect to that. So I think that it'll be a change for many, and maybe difficult, but I'm glad to hear that there's excitement around it. And I absolutely think it's the right direction to go.
So to add to that, the buildings are working on their building goals under one uniform now, as opposed to an island or a silo. They are actually working collaboratively with each other to make sure that what they're doing is aligning more with each other. The left hand needs to know what the right hand is doing.
Because it's one student that's going through all 3 schools, right? And why would we have a jarring experience that doesn't support that student through that adventure?
So some of the things that are implementing now, there's been a lot of change at Google now. So there's a lot of procedural change and policy change in a very short period of time. But I think people understood that it was coming from a good place. We're trying to be punitive in any way, but we're trying to align. And having the ability to have someone there who used to be over here to say, no, this is what they need when they get here that they haven't gotten, and we need to make that adjustment. So it's come quicker than I had hoped.
I have, not quite sure how to phrase it. You have restorative practices as one of the things. One, can you just remind me exactly what restorative practices are? I thought that's what the discipline scenario that we were going to wait for.
No, that's responsive classroom. We currently, at Goodwin, we were a responsive classroom behavioral model. At the middle school, we were PBIS. You're capable. We're going to unify that. However, we are all responsible now to go under a restorative practice model. That is state mandated. So we are now going to shift to what we are required to shift with, and conduct our behavioral programs in a more restorative manner as prescribed by state statute, which we are in the infant stages of doing now. Fortunately, we just hired an associate principal who came from a district who has been doing this a little longer than we have, and it's 100% training. So we stole that.
Can you provide us with some reading material on that? I mean, obviously, you and I have spoken many times on certain things, and I still have my concerns.
I have my concerns about it too, but unfortunately, our leadership in the state government has decided that it's.
Maybe not so much on the restorative practice, just on how things are being applied.
The consistency, right?
That too. We can talk.
I will touch upon that. Another agenda.
And if that's something that we're interested for too, we can always bring it back for a topic for more in-depth conversation, so. Fine. So, okay, any other questions on opening week? Right, if not, we'll move on to student comment.
Okay, This is not official yet, but I know we're typically like to give the board an update. Our enrollment is low. Much lower. Now, some of it we saw. So you know, that last year we had an 8th grade class of 55 kids and we're replacing it with a 5th grade class of 52. So there was a good chance. We did lose a number of 8th grade students to all their alternatives. Magnet schools, tech ed schools, some private schools, which some cases is academic, some cases are sports. You know, we're gonna change the way that we communicate with families about that in the middle school. So we will survey kids, kids will give us their reasons on why they're exploring other options. And there's not necessarily much we can do about it. We're gonna speed that up a bit. And have conversations, not just with kids, but with families. And I'm gonna do it. I've talked to 15 families and why you send your kids somewhere else? Because there's something that we can offer here that would keep your child. That's the goal. But that's a process that will be changed throughout this particular academic year. I will draw your attention though, that we are pretty much full of Goodwin. So when you look at numbers, the sticker shock is we're down 50 kids across the district. The middle school is very low. We did see some of that coming. But I would have to tell you, keep your eyes on Goodwin because we're 20 plus at Goodwin and those kids are going to end up at the middle school eventually. So if we maintain these figures and also adjust how we're doing things at the secondary level to provide more opportunities for kids to say, no, I don't want to go to a tech school. I can do X, Y, and Z and still, you know, play a sport in my hometown. That's the focus that we're working on this year, is to address that, basically that retainment effort to make sure we're giving every possible opportunity for our kids to stay there. But this isn't official, it's October 1. We know we got a call that we're gonna, this will change. Got a couple of calls already that there are some kids that were coming back, but they're not official. But that's where it is. We'll keep you updated as we go.
Any questions, Jeff?
Just to offer perspective, because I work in a high school and it's the exact same conversation. And if the board members aren't aware, the proliferation of magnet schools and the pressure from the state on the magnet schools, the tech schools, the ag schools to recruit from kids that would be going to our public high schools is a huge issue across the state. So it's not unique to Saybrook. And it's a lot of it is, again, this the state's thing. And but to your point, Mr. Dresnick, sometimes we see those kids come back.
Yeah, so I actually work at one of those schools of choice that students can choose. There are 2 old Saybrook students graduated last year. The concerning number to me here is look at the 11 high school. I'm thinking just about Old Saybrook, not about myself or the school that I happen to work at. 11 high school students attending the Marine Science Magnet School. Quite familiar with the school, quite familiar with the personnel, their curriculum and other things. Students attend a school like that, and in fact, I've interviewed several of them because many interview at our school as well for options, because they have a keen interest in science. It would indicate to me that there may potentially be our science curriculum within the district may need some attention. So what I'd like to ask, Chris, is it possible to get an assessment from you or a report from someone within the district about what's being done to address a science curriculum that I've seen, having a student also in the school system that I feel is not robust enough. I'll use that word.
Yes.
So could it something that we could have with the status and assessment of our science programs here at Old Saybrook Public School with specific emphasis on middle and high school.
So I'm gonna keep building back into your questions, what I hinted at earlier. We have an opportunity to start planning on what we want this place to look. We're gonna start that. I'm gonna give you a draft, because obviously I don't have the ability to tell you what to do, of what a framework for that plan will be, an outline of who we're gonna talk to, what we're doing. I'm gonna give that to you next board. And I'm gonna invite the 2 who actually created it to the following board meeting to have them show you the avenues, the tools you now have. Jeff and Trent spent a lot of time with this process. But that's when we can start having these conversations. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just specific to science, but if we choose, we can. We can't compete with Marines. Hard. However, we got some tech school kids who maybe they want a little bit more. Well, but we don't necessarily offer. And we partner with someone who has a welding program with local. That maybe we don't have the facility to do it, but another local public district does. And maybe we have a program that some of their kids don't have access to that we can swap. I've done that. It might be enough, because here's the other thing you gotta realize, when kids leave to go to an alternative. It's a huge commitment, here especially. I'm thinking, if you're gonna go to, an alternative school in Middletown. And do extracurriculars. 9-10 o'clock at night, when your clock is up, you guys are free to leave.
Thank you.
Yes, for everything. Thank you guys, big break.
Have a good night.
Transportation, like these kids, and some people will say, well, kids can drive if they go to that school, but do you want your kid driving on Route 9? I drive it, I don't wanna be on Route 9. So that's a huge time commitment. So can we do enough to satisfy the needs of where those kids and families are? To get them to stay. And that's the conversation. It's gonna take a lot of thought, a lot of different opinions. It's gonna take some resources, it's gonna take some creativity, but it can be done. Like, I can't compete with Boag because we don't have any land here with horses. Maybe we do, I have a problem. But are there other, of those 15 kids who left? Can we reprogram to keep 8 or 9 of it? And I appreciate what Joe had mentioned. The magnet proliferation is common. It just sticks out here a lot more because of our size. I would lose 30 kids to a magnet school in my previous life and no one would know. Here, it's a big deal, especially it's the perfect storm of a smaller classes like that. So when we get into the schedule, I'm gonna throw back to your question if that's okay.
I think it's that too, we've been talking about really understanding that root issue, why students are choosing, like, if it is something that we completely can't offer and we can't offer it, then fine, or there's a different way. But if it's academic rigor, like, I have a real challenge with that, I think that's what you're getting at, right? So,
Sort of academic rigor
And-
in the discipline of science.
Yeah.
I happen to have an undergraduate in biology, and growing up through high school and into college with science. So much of it is outside the box teaching, so much of it is hands-on. And I just know from my daughter's experience, she has not had that.
Yeah.
It's
So-
been very traditional textbook science working. So I want to know if the district is willing to look at, and there may be things already going on and discussions going on. To look at, I mean, I think at the middle school, and I think just post-COVID time, Sheffield Street, the town dock's right there. That in and of itself is weeks worth of a science break. Just walking to the town dock, but there was never a day where they left the room and went outside.
So nothing's
It's
official,
almost egregious for science.
but I don't think I'll get in trouble by saying this up. We had 2 students approach us, approach the administration or came to me. Wanting to take an AP physics class that we didn't, we only 2 kids. Seems to have a teacher of record. Had a teacher volunteer to do it, then we gotta go through the legalities of making sure they can do it. But our response was, yeah, kids won't do it. Kids won't sit for the class, all we have to do is provide the teacher of record and work out that it's still cheaper than offering a class or paying for a kid to go somewhere else. Yeah, we shouldn't say no. So I can't say I totally approved it yet, because we have to go through the process, but I've already said this. So those types of things aren't in, like, you're gonna get presentation. You guys got we had a guest last year for the students who came from signing ADP. I don't know if you paid attention, but one of our former graduates talked about one of the struggles he had was some of the technical training that he needed in his apprenticeship. And I was having conversations afterward, I'm like, it's so hard because we don't have physical space to build a lab. And then Kari came to me and goes, we have an idea, VR goggles. So I'm like, and then apparently there are companies out there that will take the VR training certification just as if you did it hands-on. So we bought the goggles. We have, you're gonna get a demo on the goggles at some point. But that's another path for an avenue if a kid wants to go into engineering or CAD design that would have to say no because we didn't offer that. Maybe that was enough for that student to say, you know what, I can do that component here and still get my hometown high school experience. So yes, that's a very long answer. Got me fired.
on some of these, is there a way to partner with our community on some of these? You know, my son dropped a bomb on me the other day. He's like, Dad, I wanna go to Voc school to become a mechanic. I don't know where that comes in. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, you know, sure, we can talk about it. But I'd love for him to stay in Old Saybrook and not have to travel all the way up, but. Is there a possibility of, you know, building into the schedule where at the end of the day, he goes and works at a mechanic shop and apprentices or does something? I know there's, you know, age restrictions and things about that, and things like that, but I mean, I know several welding companies in town and I just didn't know if that's an avenue that possibly, maybe somehow, just,
There's always an pattern. How hard you willing to look? And how hard conversations you're willing to have to do that. There's always a chance. Like, so, let's say there's another public district in the area that has a pretty robust one component of a technical that we don't have. There's no reason, and I can't speak for somebody, I've been having these discussions and be like, look, if I got 4 kids who wanna go to a tech school for that trade, what if we schedule them differently at Old Saybrook High School, and at the end of, so at noon time, we bus them to you. They take their tech component with you, still our credit, we can cross pollinate the credits. That kid doesn't go to Vineland. And then vice versa, we offer something that may be more robust here than you offer in your small district. Let's start talking about sharing resources because of our side. We don't have to regionalize, we can regionalize offerings, what's best for the kids. So yes, there are some that we don't have an auto shop. That was the best program I ever had in my whole life because I had 10 kids a year who were literally graduating high school because of auto. So that's what they want. The only reason they came to school was auto. But there are ways to have that with people who have the facilities, but we have to go through the legal side, the insurance and all that stuff. We can explore that. We are.
How do our number, I know you haven't, I don't think you've done the magnet school enrollment report yet, so.
That's next.
My question is kind of related to that. How do our numbers compare with Lima Lime? As far as kids going outside the district and, how much of our, population that is leaving our siblings? And that we might have expected that to happen. So you can either answer that after your presentation or.
I don't know, I haven't done the comparisons to the surrounding districts because this is literally our first week one. And as I said, we do have some inside information that some may be returning. So we will get that, I just don't wanna speak out of turn right now. As far as the sibling component of that, we do collect that data. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I can certainly. It could be if a sibling went to another institution, then it's just.
Right.
It's a family, like we had one student who went to a private school that's not even on the map, but like. That student was a legacy there, like that's where they were going all, we knew they were going all, but. That's information that we have to look at, but I think the important thing is we need to get ahead of these conversations with families to say, before you sign. Like Steve, like, let's talk before your kid goes, like, tell me why and what can we tailor? Look, there's. I'm not gonna show.
Like in the middle school, they have presentations from these outside schools, right? To say, hey, here's where you can go.
Only the public magnets.
Okay,
I ripped the Xavier poster down.
oh, good. And so do we also do a presentation for Old Saybrook Public Schools, right? Like do that marketing within at the same time that these magnet schools are.
What he does.
Yes, and one of the things we did last year, and this was more for the transition for 8th grade to our freshmen, was. Send the kids down there and let them have sort
That's very.
of a private conversation with their 9th grade and 10th grade class at the high school to say like. It serves the purpose of, they get to hear from someone besides us, no one wants to hear from Joe Lee. More importantly, they now know someone there. So if there's a sophomore who went down to the middle school last year, they now know a junior, you know what I mean? Not to say they don't want to hear. But I think we also need to do a better job branding what we currently. We offer a lot of AP classes. For a small district, we're at 17 now. That's a lot. But does anybody know that? No. I'm not moderator.
No, it's okay. Jane, also I wanna keep moving on to the magnet enrollment as well, because they're all kind of tied together, but.
Yeah, when my older son was in the middle school during eighth, so, yeah, so in eighth grade in the fall. You know, he was interested in looking at private schools, and the weekend, we went to look at a private school. And then right after that, in October, I think it was in October. They had the open house for eighth graders and families to go. I think that's important to do it that early, because, you know, and I'm not sure if we're doing that in October. I know we have the spring where they go and get acclimated so that they're, you know, when they walk, you know, it's almost like a mini orientation. But those decisions are made a lot earlier, and it was really, really good to see, you know, to go to a private high school in New Haven, kind of nice reputation. And then come see the tour of Old Saybrook, which was 2 miles down the street from us. And very comparable. When you know, when you move away from, you know, wasn't as fancy as a campus, but in terms of what the high school offered, it was very comparable. And you know, long story short, it was a good move for him to stay. Was really happy, and didn't cost his family anything. Didn't cost Old Saybrook anything. So, you know,
Very good
I,
representatives to do that besides us.
I'm sorry,
We have very good representatives to help that case as well, besides us. They're sitting right
we
here.
really do, we really do. And I think if we give families those opportunities early in October, I think we've got a lot to be proud of, and we need to make sure that families understand.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we're kind of staying on topic too, and not trying to like solve the problem tonight or what the situation is gonna be, but I would.
I know that you didn't mention it, but is there, many years ago, we used to have students that really went to Xavier University and they really exited. Do we have any of that?
We do have some students who went to Xavier University.
But that's a significant amount.
Of the 15, I wanna say 4. But I don't have that definitive. One of them I heard maybe returning, I don't know. That's definitive.
Alright, so let's move on to the next topic, magnet school enrollment.
You have the memo, 13 magnet students, attending magnet schools, this is what we pay. We also get additional costs for special education services by the students enrolled in magnet schools, so we'll get a bill for those services as well. That's. I already have that information.
Any further questions on that? I know it's kind of like crossed into that a little bit, but. Then we'll talk about 2025. Did you have a question, guys?
I just said, and just a quick statement for what it's worth, and that is that, remembering back to Chris, what you said, we're here for the students. I think when it comes to schools of choice, we have to understand that it may be in a student's best interest to go to have options, students that aren't, especially when you talk about trade schools or schools that have a certain discipline, whether it be a focus on a science program or something of that nature, that it may be in the student's best interest to be in another environment. So I think we have to be careful by we can't eliminate options for students.
No, I think I would never want someone to say, I want to stay, but I couldn't because we didn't have X, Y, or Z without trying. Right now, we have to find out what are we missing at the development. And can we create an alternative? Because there are some kids, that's a family's a student's choice. I don't begrudge anyone for doing that. What's best for their kid. However, I do know kids who would prefer to stay, but we don't have enough to keep them.
Right.
So that's really wrong.
25 please, Daniel.
Okay, so as we talked about before we last left, this is your meeting schedule for the year. I know we have the fall leadership in October, but then some of you will be here, some of you won't at the following meeting on November 11th. What I've done, and this is tentative, and this is what we talked about last year, was for the second meeting of every month, we will bring specific guests. think it was kind of unanimous that we'd like to hear from actual students and not me, which I apologize for today. So we're gonna start with next Tuesday's, or next September meeting. I've invited students, Sarah Smalley, student services, because we never got to student services last year. And it's also a good opportunity for her to talk about summer program that she went through and some of the things that we're moving forward. We put placeholders into the rest of the calendar year. That is up to you to determine, but I wanted to provide the board with a roadmap of this is, we try to rotate certain things through. The acronym is, the reason on October 14th is I am going to bring Jeff and Trent in their first meeting in their new roles to sort of share the matrix that they're working on. But really, they're going to help us talk about the strategic planning process as well. And then to go back to an earlier question, the climate presentation, we have moved up this year to December as opposed to the spring of last year that we had got. And it was traditionally around October, November, December. And then by December 9th, that's when the accountability index that I referenced earlier should be public end of October-ish. Hopefully, but who knows? That said, I want to make sure we blocked off time. The other thing we were trying to get into the habit of is every season, and we can do this for all extracurriculars, but particularly for athletics. We have a lot of kids who get either captains or recognized for their sports, get all conference things, and never really honor them outside of what we do in the school. I wanted to throw it out because if those kids win all conference in a particular sport, they should be on TV for 5 minutes so their families can see them. That's a personal thing of mine. If you don't like it, scratch, but I wanted to put that. So we built in athletics with 15-minute, 3 times during the school year, so that every season they can come. I would do the same thing with drama, music and all that. I just didn't have all their schedule's different. Well, I know when sports is done. I don't know all the others. Yes, I am bringing everybody, but that one I can lock in right now. Great. Thanks.
Any questions on schedule?
November 11th is Veterans Day. Does that have any effect on your schedule or our schedule?
We are open. Okay. We have Veterans Day programming for our kids. There's opportunities. We do it here in town, so we are now, they're fine. Some boards don't like to meet on Veterans Day, but that's totally your priority.
I have a question, and it's not specifically on the agenda, but it's related to student report. We spend a lot of time asking questions of the students and inquiring about events, schedules, et cetera, decisions that are made at the school level. I guess my question is around what is our role with respect to the student report? Because I feel as though we may be expecting more of ourselves as a board with respect to their student report than we really have. I think it's an informational report. And it's not for us to make some policy decisions or say that things should or shouldn't be a certain way within the high school. And if I'm wrong in feeling that, I think that as a board, we should level set around what is it that what is our role with respect to the student report?
So it's one of the things that we can bring into the leadership meeting. We did keep that early. I know that we're going through, it's an election year, there may be some change up with membership or whatever, but we still wanted to keep that on. We have the meeting, which Joe, I should have said welcome at the beginning of the meeting. I'm sorry, that was my miss. So Joe, for all of you that have not met Joe, we can give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself. I should have done that earlier when I did that for the student reps. But Joe is coming and sitting in with Alan departing for the board for a term until the next election cycle. So that we can just level set, talk about what we want to start to accomplish this year. We talked a little bit about some of that at the spring leadership, but just bringing that in and carrying that forward. So that's why it's still there. I know Steve asked that question earlier, like why are we talking about right before, but we wanted to make sure at least we're dedicating some time. So with that too, I know it's not on the agenda, but Joe, if you wanted to say.
Well, let me piggyback on what you said. I had and again, I'm a high school principal in a school that's smaller than Old Saybrook, but still that's smallish. There's way too much familiar conversation going on right now, so started to twitch. But I reached a level of discomfort with the questioning of those students. You know, they work hard to prepare. This is not an easy thing. You have great students that know Sylvie forever. But to much like the superintendent, we pepper him with questions, sometimes we shouldn't, and he's strong enough to say, I'll get back to you, or we're not discussing it. I think, I would exercise some caution in the quizzing of the students, so let me agree with you on that. But I'm Joe. I moved here when my oldest daughter, who is 23, 6 months after she was born, because I chose Old Saybrook to raise my family. Been here ever since. I was a high school physics teacher for 18 years, and this is now year 16 as the principal up at Bolton. So by way of public service, I've done a couple of different things in town, and I thoughtfully waited to join this board until my kids were kind of through things. When I walk into the high school, I'm now Julia's dad, and I know everybody there. I'm not the board member who's, oh, his kid is over there. So I thoughtfully waited, and I appreciate the welcome, and I'm looking forward to hopefully more than a couple of months of time. Hopefully.
Okay, and now we are at the portion of our meeting where we need to go to executive session for the.
We need to make a motion to approve all of them.
Meeting schedule?
Meeting schedule.
No.
No.
Thank you. Did that.
Did we do that already? Well, we do it once a year, so.
This meeting included last
Did we do it
school year,
last?
so it must have been
Did
approved
we
last
do it?
year, right?
They did it last January.
It was a year ago.
They did it last September. Well, yes, we can.
Okay, so we'll make a motion. Good catch, Mary Beth.
Yeah,
If that's so we'll need a motion
I'll make a
to.
motion to approve the 2025 meeting schedule as presented.
Second by Eileen, any further discussion?
I didn't fill in and compare dates, but did we confirm that none of the dates are before? I think this is what you were getting at with the Veterans Day, that nothing is during a vacation time or a holiday time. Cause I know that in the past we've done some of that where there's a meeting scheduled during Thanksgiving, the Tuesday of Thanksgiving.
That's taken off.
Perfect. That's just the question I had. Did we scrub the?
November 25th is on there, but you typically the boards are canceling.
Yeah.
Right.
You could take it off now.
That's it.
No.
Yeah. So on November 11th, we make a motion to cancel.
Alright, we need a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Okay, now we will.
Yep.
For the purposes of, the collective bargaining agreement, inviting in Superintendent Dresser.
So.
Moved by Karen, seconded by, Jim. All in favor? Aye. We'll just take a couple minute break to situate ourselves and. Perfect, all right, so it is now 9:02. We are back in open session and we'll need a motion on the items from consent.
Would like to make a motion to approve the tentative agreement between the Old Saybrook Board of Education and the Old Saybrook Educational Secretary Union. Beginning July 1st, 2025, extending through June 30th, 2028, presented.
Second.
Joe, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I carries unanimously, thank you. Reminders here on the agenda for upcoming events, and then we'll just need a motion to adjourn.
That's,
Oh, I'm sorry.
which is kind of, I'm sorry if you want me to.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Yeah, town meeting today, the board's request to transfer funding for HVAC and to explore the urban playground passed at town meeting earlier this week.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous,
Unanimous.
I got no questions.
Okay. Did we get a motion for adjourn?
So moved.
We didn't vote.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Is that one yours? That's yours. I got it. Thank you very much.
Emergency notification system, like when I call for snow reading, we do it fast. Yeah, it's just the parents, parents is that, and I can test to make sure the system's working.
This is just compared to the other.
That's even if it's third, it's an open house, there's no Ballwood Bridge. Politicians are invited in that. Apparently, Senator will be there. I may not be at the Baldwin Bridge one because I may be going to see my daughter that afternoon. So, but I wanna make sure you guys saw it.
You have all your husky gear yet?
Oh, God. Yes. Did you see my car?
No, I don't. Check it out.
Don't forget your magnets.
I just have to be careful, I have to get out, but the
The lighthouse is everyone.
Between the.
But it's like.
If anyone's going on,
Thanks.
a lot of change, so. We've just got updates.
Yeah, right. Good luck.
I'll have very much.